Black money does not bounce one time. You know why it doesn't bounce one time? Because you don't have any communities to bounce it in. You're so busy integrating. Where are you going to bounce it? How are you going to pass it through another black hand? So as soon as a black person gets paid, before it touches another black hand, he runs right to the suburbs and spends it. He spends 95% of his money immediately outside his own community. He keeps 5% to take back into his community. Out of 5% he takes back into his community, he spends 3% of that in non-black owned hands in his own communities. Look around your neighborhood, goes into non-black owned businesses. Only 2% again, only 2% of all the black people in America keep their own money in their own communities. And then out of the 2% they keep, they then take that down to a white bank and put it in the bank, can't even get a loan. And now you're bankrupt. You go bankrupt every 24 hours, this is regular clock, and whites don't take you serious. They know that anybody who goes bankrupt every 24 hours should not be taken seriously. You started raising Cain outside their store, they say, hey, wait a minute, it's 3 o'clock, wait for those blacks, they'll go bankrupt in about another 3 hours. They know you're going to violate all the rules. So the reason we don't have any black businesses in America is for 3 reasons. 1, we've never had a national plan to start building black businesses in the country. That's why I wrote my book. That's why you got a plan now. 2 is that whites and other groups are boycotting your neighborhoods. They're boycotting you. And 3, we're boycotting our own neighborhoods and our own stores. That's why we don't have anything. Now, as long as you live, you will never see a white person get up on a Saturday morning, drive down to a black neighborhood, and get out of his car and go into a black store to buy something made by a black person. If you do, take a picture of it. You'll have something very valuable one day. All over America, on Friday evenings, go to any big city, and you'll see blacks lined up to get into Chinatown, to go to China, eat some Chinese food. Have you ever seen Chinese lined up trying to get into a black town? Somebody is not playing with a full deck. You're not playing the game to win, you're just playing. And you got to stop spending your money. So then I go to various cities, and blacks got the nasty habit, when company comes, putting them in their car on a Sunday and taking them out to the white community and say, let me go out and show you some nice white homes. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Let's go out to look at the white malls. And then they come back home and say, how in the world can white folk afford all those fine homes and big houses? It's easy. It's your money. You see what I'm saying? And y'all think I'm teasing. See, they're living off of 2 incomes. They live off 100% of their income and 95% of yours. And you're trying to live off of 2%. It is humanly impossible for a race of people to live off of 2% of their income. And in America, you equate human worth based on what you own. And if black folk don't own 2%, that's why white racists say, black folk ain't worth 2 cents. Because we don't own anything, and human worth is equated in this country based on what you own and control. And we violate all the premises of economics. We have yet to learn how to practice group economics. And the last thing about integration is that integration got a quota system, and you need to know this. It's got a quota system. You hear white somebody against quotas, they're wrong. It got a quota system. Anytime you get more than 5 to 8% of blacks involved in anything, whites are going to put up a chain. They're going to stop you. If more than 5 to 8% of blacks move into their community, they're going to put their house up for sale. If more than 5% of the blacks, 8% of the blacks go into their schools, they're going to pull their kids out of school. If more than 5 to 8% of the blacks come into their businesses, they're going to move the business out of town, cross town, out of the country. If more than 5 to 8% of the blacks come into their association, they'll resign. They got a quota system. And people say, well, blacks are against affirmative action. No, they're not against affirmative action. They're against affirmative action for you. You see, they say, well, they're against the set-aside. Racism is nothing but preferential treatment for whites. They say they're against preferential treatment. You hear them say they're against set-asides. Jim Crowism was nothing but a 100-year set-aside program for whites, where they set aside the best restaurants, the best food, the best schools for whites. They say they're against quotas. You got a quota system, I told you, in the immigration laws. Today, you still are a planned minority. You can't win. So now let me get to some solutions for you very quickly in my few more minutes I got left. What we're going to do across this country now is what's called powernomics. That's a new book coming out called Powernomics, Unleashing Black America's Potential. It's the follow-up to the book Black Labor, White Wealth. It'll show you in very specific terms what you got to do to be competitive. The things we got to focus on is in broad categories with specific principles. The first is the community. You cannot do anything unless you have a community. Your community is your social cohesiveness. The only power, the potential that black people have in America is your social, racial cohesiveness. If you don't have that, you have no power. Forget about everything else. That's a fact of life. You got to have a community, because the community will give you your businesses, it'll give you your sales opportunities in your markets. Now, how do you develop communities? The first thing you must do is stay out of all cross-purpose issues. Cross-purpose means horizontal issues. Don't get involved in any horizontal issues. Let me explain it to you. I see the puzzlements in your eyes. First, racism is vertical. Remember this. Racism is straight up and down. Racism means I don't care whether you are the lowest income black or the highest, the best educated or the least educated. It doesn't make any difference. You're all in the same tube. Okay? That's what Malcolm X was asking, what is a black man with a PhD? Remember that saying? He answered, well, he's still a Negro. Okay? It means it doesn't make any difference. You're all in it together. That's straight up and down. Horizontal issues are any issue that pertains to everybody, stay out of it. You're the weakest and poorest and most vulnerable people. Don't get involved in it. Because the only people that can benefit are those people who are directly behind where the horizontal crosses the vertical. Okay? The only people who benefit are where those 2 points cross. That's too small. You don't have that kind of energy and resources to waste. Now, what's a horizontal issue? Sexism is a horizontal issue. If you get into these various religious issues, that's a horizontal issue. Poverty is a horizontal issue. I keep telling some of my civil rights leaders, stay away from poverty. You cannot eradicate poverty. Poverty is a fixed, it's a given. You're always going to have poor people. And people say, well, you're going to have poor Greeks, poor Indians, poor Lithuanians, poor Hungarians. Quit trying to eradicate poverty and try to get as many black folk as you out and leave poverty alone. But they try to eradicate something that can't be eradicated. Culturalism. That's a horizontal issue. That pertains to everybody. Let me give you about sexism, for instance. I tell black women who always want to get into sex issue, they think that somehow that the issue is sex rather than racism. See, my great-grandmother was not enslaved because she's a woman. She was enslaved because she was black. Okay? And if you're going to get into sexism, I want black women to understand this, to keep your priorities in order. If I say abracadabra right now and sexism disappeared, you still can't go any place because you're black. And if you keep it in order, remember what your mother felt. The minute she knew she was pregnant, she knew at that moment she was going to have what? A black child long before she knew the sex. So you keep your priorities straight and say, since my color came before